I left out of my little presentation that I meant to mention, and I would like Larry to comment on this, that when you analyze the Bush tax cuts, that the economic growth came from the cuts at the higher end. I think they say that and the impact they had on the highest income people. And we also, or the Bush administration, not only were there the tax cuts I described, we also reduced the penalty for marriage, we also raised the tax credit for children, et cetera. And studies show that those kinds of things, although certainly important for fairness, don't have a positive impact on economic growth the way cuts in especially the higher rates do, and especially for the highest income people. So, Professor.
Can you knock this one out of the park, Larry?
Yes.
Softball about the size of the moon coming towards you.
I'll do my best. What I'm going to point out is that President Bush was even more clever than you just gave him credit for. What happened was we had two problems in 2001. We had a short-term recession that was made worse by 9/11. And we had a long-term growth problem where we needed to improve the cash flow of the small business sector in particular, which had been badly hurt by the stock market collapse. Remember, when President Bush came to office, the NASDAQ had already collapsed by 80%. The economy shrank in the third quarter of 2000 before he came to office. And things were not going so well, and 9/11 made them worse. So I think of the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts as sort of two sides of a barbell. The first was the need to really change psychology and get the economy moving again. And the doubling of the child credit, the cutting of the bottom rate from 15 to 10. In 2001, we actually mailed checks. They went out in August to give people a rebate from 2001, which turned out to be vital. Because 9/11, if people remember it, this economy came to a standstill. I mean, if we had daily GDP for the third and fourth week of September, it was be darn close to zero. Nothing was going. We didn't have planes flying, remember. It's pretty hard to conduct commerce without planes flying. The stock market was closed for 5 days. Auto production had been shut down, et cetera. The quarter after those checks got in people's accounts was the fastest rate of inventory drawdown we've ever had in the post-war period. Why is that important? Well, if people aren't shopping, the goods pile up on the shelves. And if the goods pile up on the shelves, the factories are going to shut down because you don't need the more goods. The fourth quarter, in spite of 9/11, the fourth quarter of 2001 pulled those goods off the shelves because that money went out in people's pockets. And we were actually able to get the economy growing again in 2002, in spite of 9/11, in spite of everything else. So I would call that the demand side part of the Bush tax cuts. What you then had as the top rates came down, starting in 2003, was you started to see small business cash flow revive, employment revive, and we had very rapid growth in 03, 04, 05, 06. So I think actually the great thing about the president's tax cuts was, after all this experimentation up and down, we finally got both the supply side and the demand side right. And we got it right in a way that really helped the economy out. One more small point, if I may, Governor
Yes.
Rove.
General Rove.
General Rove. Lord and Master Rove, whatever.
King Carl.
King Carl. Yeah, you don't know all the names we called you on the second.
Yes, yes, I did, Larry.
Uh-oh, yeah, this bug, probably.
Lawrence! We have time for maybe a couple of questions.
Mr. Hubbard talked about the parts of the tax strategy and the '01 and the '03, those 21st century Bush tax cuts. How do you sell growth over fairness? Isn't growth the fairest of all?
Well, this administration's concern and the current dialogue about fairness is how can we sock it to somebody who's not paying enough in our view? Fundamentally different. I mean, you know, there was some discussion, and Larry was very good at the time of making clear things like the child tax credit really didn't have implications for growth, but they did have implications for the ability of families with large numbers of children to get by. It wasn't going to create significantly more economic growth. The feedback wasn't significant, but it was a way to help people get by in a tougher economy.
Can I say something?
Larry, Val, anything?
Say one thing? Say
Yes,
one thing?
Amity?
Jobs. Jobs. If unemployment is high, it's not fair.